Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. Today, I am so happy to welcome Lisza Crisalle. She is a health, nutrition, and mental wellness advocate. She's also an educator and a co-creator of the first CU accredited nutrition certification software that went to market in 2003. So, welcome, Lisza. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to share today.
Yeah. So as I embark on, my mental health journey, I tell everybody like I'm a very very I lead with my mental health. But as I'm getting older and, learning more about nutrition, learning about just general wellness, I would love your take being kind of a nutrition expert of what are the best kind of approaches that people can take to, improve their just general like mental well-being through their nutrition because I believe it's such an important part of our lives that I don't think we talk about enough.
It really is. And I always say it's a lot less expensive to adjust your nutrition than it is to deal with doctors and health issues later on.
For sure.
And so sometimes it might be some shifting of your patterns, but it is a much better way to age with what I like, what's it like? I always like to say I'd rather age with being in full, capacity than having challenges and health challenges as I get older. And
Yeah.
a lot of that can be managed through your nutrition, obviously, and activity. Like they do work together. I don't like to use the word exercise. Exercise is great, but it's really about movement, right? Making sure you are, you're utilizing movement and activity along with the nutrition.
Yeah, no, I would wholeheartedly agree with that, that it's like kind of, and I like that you said, you kind of took a little bit of the pressure off of like the word exercise because
Yeah.
I know like they say like sitting is the new smoking, right? So us being sedentary, especially with like everybody working from home more these days, it is important to like, get up and get out. And just move our bodies. I think that just I'm sure you would know better than me, just like even just a little bit of time outside. It could be as
Yes.
minimal as like 15 minutes walking outside, getting some of that fresh vitamin D from the sun, if there is sun. Hopefully today it is a little cloudy by me, so no natural vitamin D, but I think that's the most beneficial to our bodies when we get that like natural
And it
source of like.
actually, it's not only beneficial to our body, but also our mental acuity. It really is. They all work together. The body functions together, again, both with nutrition and with activity. And you're right, getting outside, like my husband and I, we live in a really great neighborhood, and I actually have 7 miles of hiking trails just outside my front door. Like I don't even have to
That's
get in the car.
amazing.
Now,
That's
I don't
awesome.
always do 7 miles, but I have that there. And so many times we'll be like, all right, we got to get up and we just go. We have a loop that we do that's like if we don't have that much time, but it's enough to get us moving, get us change of state, which is also very important. Change your state, especially if
Hmm.
you're getting frustrated or irritated with things. Just literally taking 15 minutes, just go outside and take a walk around the block can have immense positive results. When you get back, you look at it differently. You look at things differently.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and I love that you mentioned that because I call them, I've coined them to my, just as I tell myself, kind of like what I say, like I have like micro moments throughout the day where like I'll just in between meetings, I will like just sit and take a couple of deep breaths. And, I know it might sound silly or it might just sound like, oh, like, but it does help me throughout the day to keep my nervous system regulated. Because I'm sure, as you know, like, I mean, I've finally learned, Lisa, in 37 years of life, like, the real flex in life is having a regulated nervous system. Like, life is gonna life, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's gonna th work is gonna cause stress. People that have children, family, like house, like adult life is very complicated and very stressful. But if you can keep yourself regulated and you can keep yourself at a like at peace state, I think that is like that's where, if you that's like the new generational wealth, as they're saying.
Absolutely. And there's lots of tools and resources to do that. So hopefully we'll be talking about some of those today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I also too, and I would love to pick your brain about, and we talked about on our kind of meet and greet call is I'm fascinated with because as I keep mentioning, and I'm a therapist in training, and they actually don't teach a lot of like biology or stuff about the brain, but I'm really I've a newfound have a newfound sense of curiosity around gut health and how important that is to our mental health. So I don't know if you could just enlighten me for the listeners, kind of why gut health is so important. It basically what is like they say it's like our second brain, right?
It absolutely is our second brain. And in fact, as babies in the womb, as we're forming, what happens when you're initially created, the brain and the gut are actually connected. They're
Really?
literally
Okay.
connected in the formation. And as the baby continues to grow, the gut brain axis, AXIS, the axis is formed between the two of them. So they are very
Mhm.
uniquely connected, and we are obviously still connected, like once we're after we're born. But that's where if we literally start, they start together, the gut and the
Uh-huh.
brain. And so
Interesting.
as yeah, it's fascinating. And so yes, they are directly integrated. And so this is why nutrition and what you put into your body is so important because it affects you on so many levels. It affects your energy, your focus, your activity, like how, if you want to, if you're feeling lethargic or active, it affects your clarity and your focus. And so it's a combination, obviously it's the food that you fuel yourself with. And I always think of food as fuel. So if you think of a car, okay, let's just talk a race car, like a Ferrari
Yep.
race car, okay?
Yep.
A Ferrari race car has the fuel that they put in that car, we can't even buy at a gas station. It is higher than, the premium fuel. So it
Hmm.
is super, super, super clean, and it has to be as clean as possible for the car to function at its greatest capacity. Okay, well, it's the same thing with our body. If you put gunk in, you're going to gunk up your system. Okay, it will
Hmm.
clog up your system. That's literally what happens. And so things like preservatives and additives, fast foods, the high, grease levels, simple carbohydrates, things like that, those will actually gunk up your system. What
Hmm.
happens when your body, and I'm doing this, I'm trying to give you really layman's terms here so
Yeah,
you can
yeah, yeah,
understand it.
exactly. Yep, yep.
And as your systems gunk up, your blood vessels get gunky and the blood doesn't flow as well. The blood is what's delivering oxygen to every cell in your body. So if the blood can't flow well, then guess what happens? Your cells aren't getting fuel, they're not getting the energy that they need. Okay. And that's all over your body, but especially in your brain. Okay.
Yes.
Especially because your gut is directly connected to your brain through the axis. Okay.
Hmm.
So what's critically important for the brain to function at its highest level, and this is what directly affects mental wellness, is our serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, GABA.
Hmm. Yep.
Those three components are what are really like our happy hormones. Well, those hormones are developed and created in the body and then sent up
Sent
from the
up from
axis
the
to the
gut.
brain. The more of those hormones, those what we call your happy hormones that get to your brain, the easier your brain has, the easier opportunity has to think through things and have clarity and focus. That's
Hmm.
all. It's not like, it's just that it makes it easier. It makes it
Hmm.
easier to not, if you're not getting those things to your brain, you're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel low energy. You're going to lose focus. You're going to be distracted, right? So as
Yeah.
you can deliver that, okay, deliver those hormones, again, all of these pieces work together through blood flow, oxygen flow, hormone flow, all of those pieces all work together. And it's directly related to what you put in your mouth. So, for those of you who are listening right now or watching this, just think about every time where, oh, I'm just going to run through the drive-through and grab this because, it's faster. And I'm not, this is real life, in this world, things are,
Of
sometimes you got
course.
to do the best that you can do.
Yep.
However, I also want to challenge you to just take an extra second and say, what can I do that's a better choice than that? Okay.
Hmm.
I literally have not eaten in a fast food, any fast food in, I don't even know, probably 12 to 15 years.
That's
Um,
That's
so
amazing.
So, it's just not something that I choose to go to. I understand, I used to go do it, but, and then sometimes, again, I understand there's real life, you got kids, you
Yeah.
got all those things, granted. But think of that as just putting pure gunk into your system. So, what is another option that you can do? How can you plan perhaps? So one of the things I do when I know that I'm going to be out and about, for longer, like I eat every 3.5 to 4 hours, right? I do that
Hmm.
to keep my blood sugar levels
Yep.
regulated. But if I know I'm going to be gone longer than that, because I know at home I have the right choices, then I will throw something. I will throw some kind of a snack into my bag and take it with me. Whether I eat it or not, I have it because I don't know if my meeting might go long or I get stuck in traffic or whatever. I want to have choices so that I'm not starving and I have to go
Hmm.
through a drive-through right now. Now,
Yeah.
again, there are choices that you can make at a drive-through and all of that, and I'm not going to get into that. Like you can choose, and especially
Yeah, yeah,
order.
there's alterations you
Yeah,
can
there's
make or
alterations.
choose healthier choices. Yeah, if
Right.
that's your only option.
Yeah, if that's your only option. But I tend to do things like grab an apple before I leave, or I make little snacks all the time that are just little bites, that I just throw in
Hmm.
a baggie and I just take with me. And I have them if I need them. So it's just a matter of having a little bit of conscious awareness of your time and where you'll be at. And then the other big thing that I'm going to just share with everyone is the easiest thing to do is as you're grocery shopping, the best choices that you're going to find for a healthy, clean eating is going to be in the outer perimeters of any grocery store. So if you think about it, the outer perimeter is where the vegetable aisle is, right?
Hmm.
It's where
Yep.
the meat department is. It's where the eggs are. It's where whatever it is, that's usually in the outer
Yes,
aisles.
the outer, yeah, not in the inner aisles. Like,
Not
yeah.
on the inner aisles. The inner aisles are things that are boxed, that have preservatives and additives and all of the other things in there. And I'm not saying, again, this is real life. We got to do the best that we can. However, just knowing that if you can fill the majority of your plate with whole food, right? That doesn't have any, that hasn't been altered or whatever.
Hmm.
So fruits and vegetables, obviously, because those are whole. Clean, lean meats, so chicken, steak,
Yes.
fish, those things. You're going to get the cleanest options right off the bat. And
Hmm.
so a simple thing that we've taught for years and years, is something called PFC, proteins, fats, and carbs. So
Okay.
a protein, the easiest way to know this is a protein is anything with like a face or
Oh,
like
I
it
love
walks or
that.
flies. Okay. So
Okay.
a protein is it's going to be an animal protein. Now, for those of you who are vegans and don't eat animals, there are there are options for you. That's just that the proteins that you have to have is at a much greater quantity because
Hmm.
plant proteins just are at a lower, you don't get as much protein out of a plant protein, but you just have to have higher quantities. So anything, like I said, a protein and then a clean fat, like HLDL, whatever it is, the olive oils, the avocado
Yes.
oils, things like that, right? And and the carbohydrates. Now, with carbohydrates, it's not that you can't have carbohydrates, but it's understanding which carbohydrates. So it's always trying to keep it as a complex carbohydrate. Those are things like sweet potatoes, um,
Hmm.
uh, root vegetables. Most vegetables are carbohydrates, so vegetables are clean carbohydrates. Anything that's called like a what we call a per, per, ah vociferous. Anyway, I couldn't say it, but anyway,
No, don't worry. That's a hard one. I wouldn't be able to. Is
it's a
it
word.
vociferous? Oh, well,
Vociferous, which is
okay.
like broccoli, cauliflower. So it looks
Yes.
like it
Okay.
has, right? It has like veins in it. So again, those things are going to fuel you and they're actually going to satiate you. They're going to help you feel full longer. And so when you
Hmm.
combine them and just always pay attention to combining them at every meal. That's why
Okay.
these weird restrictive diets are so challenging because they're removing one key component that your body needs. And when you combine all three, the protein, the fat, and the carb, together at every meal, what happens is your blood sugar rises gradually, it kind
Mm.
of levels out, it lasts longer, and then it comes down, and you're satiated for about 3.5 to 4 hours. If you're doing just carbohydrates or just
Just
or whatever,
protein, or
anything,
yeah,
what happens is your blood
it's a
sugar shoots
spike.
up,
Yeah.
it spikes, and then it drops down, and then you're starving. right?
Yeah.
And it's a very short period of time. You don't feel satiated very long if you're eating potato chips or, the fast food, things like
Well,
that.
I always say the potato chips, you can't just have one, you
And
know?
you can't, right? So that's a whole nutrition sort of class in a very short little window there, okay?
I love it. No, thank you for, and yeah, I never heard of that before. I mean, I, of course, like, like about the perimeter. I never noticed it until you said that. Go for the perimeter. Of course, I've, focused on, going no labels. As many, the less labels, the better, I think is
Yes.
always the goal, and the more, as you said, and most fruits and vegetables and fresh foods don't have labels, but it's the boxes and the chips and all that stuff that, that has labels. But I also too, I'm curious, as I was just actually had a holistic doctor on my podcast, Dr. Aaron Chapa, and I asked him this question. So I'll ask you the similar one
Okay.
because I'm reading a book and it's basically it's called Bad Therapy: Why the Kids Don't Grow Up, and the very like high level theory that this, and it was written by Abigail Schreier. She is not a mental health professional. She is a journalist actually. And she feels that the actual mental health professionals, like the therapists, the, APNs, the psychiatrists, etc., they're actually responsible for a lot for the mental health crisis because the people are kind of like therapy, I will say, and I've been going to therapy myself. If you get the wrong therapist, or sometimes you can sit in that disorder a little too much and you can talk about your past too much. It's not like very forward moving, which I get what she's saying, but she's kind of saying that like the mental health professionals are perpetuating the mental health crisis, which I don't believe. But I'm curious to know because I'm thinking even more systemically of the relation to diet. And I'm like, as like, because and these recent years, obviously fast food is, very easy, it's accessible, it's it's cheaper than a lot of Whole Foods. Do you think that the mental health crisis and there's a link between our nutrition and our sad American diet and mental health? Do you think that there's a
Yeah.
correlation there?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no doubt about it. Here's what's really interesting because I've worked in this space for a long time. So I address mental wellness, not
Yes.
mental illness. There's a big difference. Mental illness is diagnosed issues.
Yes.
One of the challenges with the mental illness professionals, the ones who work with those people, is they are highly, highly regulated. So they can only treat those issues with medication. Okay. And I've had some really deep discussions on this because I'm also a huge believer in supplementation. I think supplements
Mm.
and good supplements, clean supplements, which are out there, um, are a huge help, right? It's a huge help for people to get um, critical nutrients that they need in their body that they're not getting from their diet alone.
Yep.
We even know, even if you're eating whole foods, the food quality in the United States
Unfortunately.
is very depleted.
Yeah.
Just comparing like fresh vegetables today from just 10 years ago. And there was a recent study done that it was done with spinach. And it tested out the spinach. And in order to get the same level of nutrients, right? Nutrients. That's not even talking about getting your body to absorb the nutrients, but just the nutrients
Yeah, just the same
in
level of
a
nutrients. Yeah.
same level of nutrients from a bag of spinach today is, or sorry, a bag of spinach 10 years ago, you would need 12 bags of spinach today to equal that.
Whoa.
So just because our soils are depleted, they're being treated with pesticides and all those things, and all of that
Yeah.
depletes the nutrient quality. And that's just that's like if you're buying at Whole Foods or your local grocery
Yeah, if you're
store,
yeah, you're the top, the creme de
right?
la creme. Yeah, the organic. Yep.
So that's also why we are so heavily into supplementation. And my husband is an expert on supplements. He's worked with the top supplement companies in the country. He
Hmm.
works in development and what goes into a supplement and what doesn't. And like any other product, there's really high quality and super clean
Yeah,
supplements, and there's really low quality supplements
absolutely.
that have lots of fillers and additives. So as a consumer, you're like, well, then how do I know, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and it is really about learning how to read labels and learning, what's going into things or talking to a professional. I'm not going to go a lot into that, but supplementation is really critical in this day and age, especially in the United States. So to go back
Hmm.
and answer our question too, so comparing our food sources in the US versus over in Europe, if any of you have traveled to Europe, you're going to know that you feel different when you eat over there,
Yep.
right? Because their food is generally very quick from growth to market,
Yes.
very, very fast. They don't have, like here in the US, everything gets picked before it's ripe, so it doesn't have any nutrients. Then it gets processed. Then it gets thrown. Most of these vegetables, by the way, you guys, fruits and vegetables, they're picked before they're ripe. They get thrown into a truck that has special things in it that keep, like where they chill it, but
Yeah.
they help ripen the fruits and vegetables on while it's being
Like
delivered
in transit.
in transit. Okay, so
Oh,
that it looks pretty by the time we get to us, right? You know, the added colors and things like that. So there's a lot that happens to our food that doesn't happen in other places in the world. And so that we have a
yeah.
really good comparison in understanding why we have such chronic disease and chronic issues. So it's a combination of all those things. The increase in fast food. I'm going to tell you,
Hmm.
I'm going to share something with you guys. Like I live just outside of Las Vegas. I live in Henderson, and I've been here in this place for 13 years. And in 13 years, I have seen this area just grow out of control. And there's a main road that kind of is a main artery from Vegas
Yeah.
to
From
Henderson.
Vegas to Henderson. Yeah.
And it used to be just desert. It was just desert. And now it is completely built up, and I get angry every time I go because it's like another fast food restaurant, another fast food
Hmm.
restaurant, another fast, and they're just popping them in there all the way through, like with drive-throughs and the whole thing. And it drives me crazy because what's happening is it's just feeding more illness and it's feeding more
Yeah.
chronic issues and it's feeding all of that because, of course, it's easy and it's simple. We all have a million things going on and I don't have time to go grocery shopping. And so they go through the thing, right? So I
Yep.
get it. And
Yeah.
what you feed now is going to affect you later. So it's quality versus, price, really, right? It's
Yeah.
quality. What you put into your body is what's going to come out, really. So, and literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, yeah. True. Literally too.
Um, but I do want to talk about supplementation,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it's important
Take
for,
take it away. I'm with you too. I know one of my I live in the Northeast, I'm in New Jersey, and one of my favorite restaurants is like farm to table on steroids. And
yes,
and the guy, actually the chef up there says, he's like, you have to treat your soil like a bank account, and real true organic
yes,
farming is they have rotation crops that like you have to like they're not just, I'll use a layman, like you're not just like planting corn and then planting corn again, like you have to actually like plant
refresh
different,
it.
yeah, exactly, plant different things in the soil in order to for it to be as rich as possible, because it's like a bank account. You have to, you can't withdraw from it without putting in
Into
deposits.
it.
So
Yes,
yeah,
that's
so
so
yeah,
true.
but so, and you're absolutely right. I've heard that on, unfortunately, a lot of our produce that we, are at the grocery stores in the US is not of great, nutrient. They're not it's not nutrient rich, and that's why,
It's
as
not,
you said,
it's
we
not
need the
nearly,
supplement.
again, it's still going to be a better choice than fast food or,
Yeah,
packaged products.
but I
And the
like the
other thing
whole,
is like markets. So again, I know they pop up everywhere. Most communities have like Saturday markets or
yeah,
weekend
farmers
market,
markets. Yeah,
farmers markets where you can get them less expensive, right? You can get the farm to table experience. You can get, and generally when you start seeing those foods at the markets, you could tell they look better, right?
yeah,
They have color, they're bigger, they're more robust, right? I love going to markets. I
I
just do.
know, they're
And
the
it's,
best.
yeah. So I actually have a service here now. We found at a market, we found a service that delivers farm to,
Oh,
to door.
that's awesome.
It's incredible.
That's
So,
great.
uh, but if you're not that lucky, I get it. Like, I mean, I understand that. And here,
Yeah,
I guess it's been a big issue because we don't necessarily we get all of our really good fruits and vegetables from California. So it has to be shipped in.
yes. Yeah, no, but and then as you're saying too about like supplements, I guess could you give people like kind of like, oh, I think it's very, very like high level, because I'm sure there are so many nuances to it, because that, like as you said, like there are good and bad quality supplements out there, because that you actually could probably be doing more damage to your body if you're taking a bad supplement. Am I correct there by saying that?
I
Or
wouldn't say necessarily damage, but what I would say if it's a low quality, then you're generally paying for things that will be going right through you. So
got
you're
it.
not getting a benefit, a true benefit. The low quality products have fillers and additives. That's not great for you. And the problem is if they're not formulated properly or manufactured properly, you're not absorbing it.
Hmm.
Because again, it's really the most important piece is can your body absorb
Absorption. Yeah.
absorption. So I don't want to get too technical on that. But one of the things that we do is we have, and they're available, a lot of doctors' offices have it. We have what are called scan techs, and we have a biofeedback. It's a quantum resonance magnetic analyzer, and it's really
Wow.
cool. It's been around for years, and it's a little thing you put it on your finger. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it uses uh, um, electromagnetic biofeedback to go scan your whole body from brain to top to bottom. And then it gives you a reading on your overall health and function of your body.
Very
It's really
cool. That is
fascinating.
really cool.
It's super fascinating and very, very accurate. It's about, I think it's between 85 and 92% as accurate as a blood test. Okay,
Oh,
without
wow.
being
And this is just a scan.
it's just a scan. It literally
Wow.
put it on your finger. It's fascinating and it gives you extensive information. Again, a lot of doctors' offices have this. And we do this because what it does is it then tells us what area are you lacking or needing, and it does it it does it color coded. So it's like if it's green, you're like right in the right, and there's always parameters, right, between this and
Of
this.
course.
So there's green, yellow, um, blue and red. So the farther you go out, the more challenging things are. So if you're in the green, you're right on track. It's aligned properly. If it goes in the blue, it just means you're a little low or a little high on
Got it.
whatever that is. And then yellow is meaning, okay, this is concern. And then red is like you got to do something, right?
Danger, danger.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. And so from that, we use that to then make recommendations for supplementation for specific things.
Oh,
So,
very cool.
so it's very, very accurate and it allows us to not just give you blanket products, but very specific products that can help. And so what we do is we do a scan on, day one when someone comes to see us, and then we book a second one 30 days later, and then we do a
Mhm. See
comparison
the difference
and see
of
the difference.
after they made adjustments to their
Yeah,
diet
after they made
and
adjustments. So
supplements.
that's a really great thing if that's available or you can find it. And again, we can, if they want to know, I could, help guide people. But again, generally most you could just call your doctors and ask them if they have it or if they do it.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. So like pretty much you said every pretty much every doctor's
Well, I
office
don't
has.
know about every doctor. Again, it depends on
Oh, it
how
depends on how thorough they are, yeah.
how dialed in they are to other, options. So if they're a little bit more cutting edge, but a lot of chiropractors' offices use these
Interesting.
um, uh, different modalities where they're doing things a little bit more, uh, authentic, without medications.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I think too. I think a big takeaway, this I have a quote in my head that you'll probably support, is that like if you don't treat your food like medicine, you'll be eating your medicine
As
as
a
food.
food.
And I think it's especially in the US. Everybody wants, and that's the thing too. I think we're very like we want that dopamine hit, that quick, you know what I mean, that quick solution, which I'm all about, I mean we live in the world we live in, but I think if you, as you said, if you just take the extra time to be a little bit more methodical about what you're putting in your body, you're gonna see the return on it in the long
Yeah.
run.
And again, it directly affects your mental wellness. Like
Yes.
I always say it's a two-prong approach. It's an internal approach and it's an
Hmm.
external approach. So what
Absolutely.
are the
Yeah. Yep.
things you're doing externally? Are you moving? Are you, getting out? Are you having activity? Maybe you are seeing a therapist, right? Like that's therapist is going to help you externally deal with things or have learn
Hmm.
different approaches or how to ask better questions, right? But
Yeah.
this way, it's a two-pronged approach. It's not just one direction because again, what you do internally can, I've seen I've seen people changes that are astounding,
Just
absolutely.
from nutrition and
So
diet and
nutrition
their
and supplementation along with, because again, once their body starts formulating more serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, again,
Hmm.
it's going to be giving them those better hormone hits, right?
Yeah.
So eventually they may not be as reactive as
Hmm.
before, right? Or
Hmm.
they may be easier going now, and so they
Yeah.
respond better to things. And I mean, I've seen like massive changes in people, really massive.
That's amazing that just with so something as simple as diet can impact
Yes,
your mental wellness and your, because I see it also too as like a ripple effect too. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're in control of your own body and your own mind, but as we discussed, there's a lot of uncontrollables out there. So and as much as, we think we live in this bubble, we don't. So if you potentially like lash out on somebody because maybe you're dysregulated, that then impacts their mental wellness and their being. So you have to like think,
absolutely.
that's how I think about it. At least I think of like impact. And I'm not saying like, like, yeah, eating healthy, like not to be like corny, like you're going to save the world, but like it is kind of you're doing your best for you to stay well so everything around you can be well.
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, no, this has been such a wonderful
Ah,
conversation, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming
yeah,
on and for enlightening me because as I said, as a mental health professional, I always lead with like the brain and like the mind, and I am always in like awe of that, like of our bodies. Like, you know what I mean? They are
yeah.
amazing, complex, like they heal themselves. I'm always in awe of the human body, and if you just
It's amazing the ability to heal, the ability again, if you
Mhm.
feed your brain the right things, it will perform for you so much better. Like, honestly, I have some supplements that I'll take. Sometimes I have a drink that I'll drink, and it just helps me get super focused because I do most of my, by the way, podcast interviews and most of my like
Yeah,
heavy work later in
yeah,
the afternoon. So I need to be on it. I need to be
yeah.
sharp.
You need,
And so I always want to be able to perform at a higher level. And so if I
yeah,
have tools or resources that help me do that, that are all holistic and clean and natural, I'm all for it. Like keep it clean. Like I don't use chemicals and I don't use any
yeah, like
drugs.
caffeine or yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just share the last piece here, which is I am 63 and I am on zero medications, zero.
That is
And
awesome.
it's like, I that's my goal. I want to go as long as I can, right? And I know at some point that might happen, but I want to have my faculties. I want to be, I want to continue to feel sharp and clear. And I just have found a way to make my lifestyle holistic and clean as possible so that I could continue into my, later years, just,
Yeah.
without the medications and things that clog you up.
Well, that's awesome. And I think we all should have that goal because I know, like, as you get older, right? It's like people are like, oh, like, what pills are you, like, what are you taking?
Yeah.
Or blood pressure, cholesterol, all that stuff. So that's good for you. That
Yeah.
is
So
amazing.
it's possible. I just want people to
Yeah.
know that it's absolutely possible and you can reverse a lot of these things. I'm not saying everything. I mean, there's certain things and
Yeah, like
again,
that are
it's
genetic or
genetic.
what have you. Yeah.
Yes. But it's absolutely possible. So yes,
Yeah.
this is
Well,
a
thank
great
you so much.
conversation.
Yeah, this has been such an enlightening conversation. And thank you all for my listeners for another great episode. As per usual, you can find the Feeling and Healing podcast on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Wonderful. Thank